Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're working with some Pink Fresh Studio product and this is our card. So we have got the Couture Grace stamp set and we've got the girl with all the florals and we've got some really nice sentiments and we've got coordinating dies that go with all these. I'm going to show you that next, but I have worked with this on another channel and I wanted to bring it to my channel. And I'll tell you, this die cuts out the girl and the flowers all together, and then you've got the sentiment dies. And then we have got a 6-piece stencil. Was it 6 or 5? I think it's 6, maybe 5. Anyway, so we've got the stencil. And I will tell you, I did a card for another channel. It turned out gorgeous, but I had some errors before I got to where I wanted to, and the same with today. Now, when I started out this video, for some reason, you can see I've got this girl stamped on the back. I had started stenciling before I stamped, and I thought, well, I'll just keep going and see what happens. It didn't work out. So anyway, she's on the back, so we're going to do it the right way this time. I just deleted the footage and started over. So I'm just going to get this white hammer mill cardstock laid here, and I have got my Memento black ink pad, and I have re-inked it recently, so I'm going to have to work with that. It's putting down a little bit too much ink, so I'm going to clean off some areas and try to tap a little bit lighter and see if we can get a decent stamping here. I just re-inked it and have not used it since then. So we'll give it a little press, and we've got a good image, but I think we can do better if we give it another light stamp and a press. Anyway, so I did, I don't know, a couple of this gal before I finally got what I wanted for the other channel. I do some work for Scrapbook Pal channel, and I did a video with this, and I turned out a really pretty card. I should have shown it on here. But anyway, I decided to go ahead and heat emboss this so that I'm going to use, skin tone, and sometimes that Memento black will smear when you're blending if you don't heat emboss. Now, I know it's supposed to be Copic safe, alcohol marker safe, but when I have laid down some Distress Oxide on there, it tends to drag the ink if you don't get it good and dry. And so just to make sure that I don't have that problem, I just heat embossed it, and we're going to use that. So I've got my waffle flower sticky mat there, and we're going to use that for our stenciling. And I've got that girl colored on the back, but it won't matter once we get done. Now, I wanted to try something on here, and it's an epic fail, but we'll just keep going, and we will come up with a card in the end. So this is my old waffle flower mat. It's all inked up. And I've just got the first layer, and this does her skin tone. And, excuse me, I'm just going to get this lined up very carefully, and I'm just going to use some ink that is on one of my blending brushes and just get it laid down on here. And this is one that I think I use with like my vintage photo. And so we're going to have a little darker skin tone, but I love it. It turns out great. So we'll just keep working, and we'll get some ink laid down on here. I'm just trying to get it consistent across there. And just filling it in. So there is stencil 1, and you can see we've got some darker skin tone there, and I think it looks lovely. And for her hair, I'm going to bring in the second layer, and we're going to get this layered up. Now, the bun does kind of go outside of the stamped lines, and that's because the stamped lines are like the detail for the hair. Now, I thought since we've got the darker skin, I'd just bring in my black soot blending brush and just lay some color down on there, and we would have some dark hair, and I really like how that turned out. We haven't gone astray yet. I'll let you know when I make a mess. So that's looking good so far. And then we're going to bring in our next stencil layer, and we'll get it lined up. And this is the dress. And the dress has some interesting markings on them. I think I actually skipped one of the layers, and I actually like it better that I did. So I'm just going to get it lined up nice and neat, and then we're going to bring in some color and get her stamped up. Now, I was debating a little bit. I've done pink a couple of times, and I've done blue, and I decided with the colors that we've chosen for her hair and her skin, I thought we'll bring in some spiced marmalade. I think orange would look really pretty with that. So I'm going to just lay down some marmalade, spiced marmalade, and I'm going to go a little bit lighter here, and then when I bring in another layer, we'll get a little bit heavier. And I have I'm tapping it off in that area up there on the top of the stencil, and so I'm just reaching in and grabbing a little bit more ink and just bringing it in there and trying to get some ink laid down on here. Now, if it's not completely even, it doesn't matter because there are layers to this dress, and so I know that I'm going to be bringing in some heavier color. And I think that looks nice. I like that color. And so I'm just going to grab for my next stencil and get it lined up on here, and then we'll add, this is where you're going to bring in, another layer to the dress. And so we'll get it laid down on there. And I'm just going to choose to continue on with a spice marmalade, but really get some ink on there and lay it down heavy. And that'll add some color to the skirt of the dress. And there we go. So that's that layer. Now I'm going to bring in another layer, and this is where we get a little bit haywire. There's a layer for the skirt, and I don't actually add that because I've done it a couple times, and I don't think you necessarily need it. So I'm going to get the bow lined up real nice, and I'm going to lay the ink down on the florals. We're going to use the spice marmalade still and kind of keep in the same color scheme. And then I had an idea for the bow and the ties, and this is where I get a little bit haywire. I've decided I'm going to bring in my lunar paste, and I've got the gold lunar paste and my little spellbinder spatula, and I'm going to lay it down on there. And I really like it until I run it through the die cutting machine. I do try to dry it and everything, but once I run it through the die cutting machine, it kind of messes it up, and I'll have to come up with a solution to kind of cover up the mistake and the errors that it makes. So I'm trying to get it from not getting in the darker portion of the dress down there and just getting it filled in really nice. And I like that. It gives some really good dimension. You can't see it here on the video, but I like it a lot. And I'm like, ooh, that looks nice. And I'm like, let's dry this up in an attempt to continue with our layers of stenciling. So I'm just bringing in my heat tool and drying it up. And that does work for the most part. Now I failed to use the that last stencil to put the shoes on. So I'm going to bring it back in, line it up, and I'm going to actually put some of that paste on for her shoes. She's going to have gold shoes. So I'll just bring in some more of that the gold lunar paste, and just kind of fill in the shoe area. And I'm liking that too. And so we'll just get it laid down on there. And just trying to scoop it off a little bit. And we're going to dry them shoes up as well. And see if we can't continue to work on these layers of stencils. We could quit right there, but part of the ribbon is just stamped, and it needs to have some of the gold on there to go along with it. And so I'm going to dry these shoes up, and I'm going to bring in that next layer of stencil and try and get that gold laid down on there. And we do get it lined up, and we get it lined up nice, and we are able to add the gold on there and the gold in the centers of the flowers. But then ultimately when we die cut, it kind of messes it up. But I just thought it'd be fun to have like a gold bow on this dress. I just had that in my head even before I decided I was going to do orange. I thought it'd be fun to have just a gold ribbon with a gold bow. And so I'm going to bring in, and I'll tell you, this lunar paste it's kind of getting old and it's pretty thick. So I'm going to have to work with it here. And I'm going to put it in the centers of my flowers as well, just to add some interest to those too. So we'll just get it laid down on there. I'm just working it with my spatula and getting it in there. And now I'm going to take all of those stencils and get them. And look how nice that looks. It looks really good until we go to the die cutting machine. But I'm going to take all of my layers of my stencils and everything to the bathroom and get them cleaned up. I don't clean them in the kitchen because I've got a brand new kitchen, and so I don't want to mess them up. So I think, I've got it dry and everything. and I'm going to stencil it or die cut it out. I don't know that did I run the heat tool on this last layer? I think maybe that was where the problem was. I did not. So anyway, I get this die on there, I line it up, I go to the die cutting machine, and we have a little bit of a mess. I will tell you, I did lay a piece of copy paper between the plate and the image, just in case any of the gold came off. But it just pressed some of the gold paste onto her arm. And to cover it up, I thought, well, I could lay these flowers on there. And I was like, do I use it? And I thought about not using it. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to press on. So I brought in a piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to bring in a sentiment from the set. And we're going to get it laid down on here. We're going to get it stamped up. And we're just pressing on. I'm going to use it. And I chose the sentiment, "You bring joy wherever you go." And I thought, you know what? We've got this orange. Let's just use the spiced marmalade to stamp it. I rarely use color for my sentiments, and I don't generally use the distressed oxides for them. And I thought, let's just keep it, let's use the same color and just stamp it up. It did stamp up well, and I'll give it a couple of presses just to get it good and a good clean image. And then I decided to heat emboss, and I was like, does distress oxide even take embossing powder? I wasn't sure about that. But it looked like it did kind of cling to it. And so I did it twice, and I went ahead and heat embossed it. And it seemed to work out. So we'll get our heat embossing stuff out of the way and bring in the hot tool and just heat it up. And we have got "You bring joy wherever you go." And we've got a nice sentiment. So I'll bring in the dies, and I'm going to die cut this out, and I'm making sure that it's cool from the embossing. So I was just shaking it because I didn't want to get into the sentiment if it was hot and still move. But I'll bring in my plates, and we're going to die cut this sentiment out. I will also die cut out 3 layers to back it so that we'll have a good thick sentiment. And then we'll come back in and we will get this card assembled. So I'm going to tape it. I just don't trust it to stay where it is. It is a magnetic panel, but just being extra sure. So I've got everything die cut out. I've got my sentiment die cut out. I've got it layered up, 3 layers. I've got some cardstock here from Spellbinders. I can't remember the color. And I'm going to just get it laid down on here. And I'm also going to bring in some of the treasured gold cardstock from Spellbinders, and we're going to use a matte gold layer just to kind of tie into that lunar paste that I brought in. And I'm going to layer this down. I have got the embossing folder of the month from Spellbinders. It's the market one. And I've got it measured 3 3/4 by 5. So I'm going to add 1/8 of an inch to this panel, and then we'll have just 1/16 of an inch hanging out all the way around. But for whatever reason, I didn't cut this well. I don't know if I didn't push in on my blade or whatever, and I'll cut it again, and it's still not right, and then we'll wind up bringing in the scissors and just straightening it up. I'm not really sure what I did. I don't know if I didn't start off with a square panel to begin with, and I kind of got it crooked or whatever, but I'll look at it and realize, boy, this is not lining up right. And I'm like, okay, we're going to get it laid down. And then I'm putting some blobs on there so that I'll have wiggle room and we'll be able to wiggle it. And then once I get it laid down, I realize, boy, this is really not square. And so, or I guess even, it's not a square, it's a rectangle, but it's not even. So I'm like, okay, get the top edge and the side edge lined up, and then bring the scissors in and just trim it up. And so that's what I'm going to do. Just try and get a nice edge on 2 sides, and then we'll just trim up the other 2. I've got the Tim Holtz scissors. These things are great for that. And so I'm just going to trim it up and just make a nice even edge all the way around there. We've got 1/16 of an inch of gold, kind of a waste of that treasured gold cardstock, but I just wanted that gold behind there just because we've got the gold lunar paste on her bow. And so there we go. We've got a nice panel. We've got that nice edge around there. And then we're going to get her laid down on here, and we're going to get this card put together. So I'll tell you what, I did a lot of stamping, a lot of stenciling for just the card for the other channel and then the card for this channel. There she is on the back. I used pink, I used Kitsch Flamingo and Wilted Violet on that one, and made her skin lighter and her hair a little bit lighter. But I like this orange. I really like the color scheme. I wish I hadn't messed up the gold, the lunar paste on there, because I would have liked for her arm to show and more of the ribbon. But I think I missed heating up after I added that last layer of lunar paste on there, and that was my problem. But I'm thinking, let's go ahead and use it. We can add this flower here. We've got the flower in her hair, and then we've got the third flower, and we're just going to have like a little trail of flowers there. And we're going to get it laid down on there. And then I'm going to use the stencil to kind of cover up some other boo-boos that I had, and just line it up on there. And we have got "You Bring Joy Wherever You Go," and I think it's going to look really nice on there. So we'll get some glue on there, and we're just going to lay it down here, and like I said, cover up a couple other areas. And I'm just strategically placing everything to cover up the mistakes that I made. So I've got some black gems from Spellbinders. We've got some teeny tiny ones, and I'm going to add those to the floral centers, just kind of in the middle of that gold, and get it lined up nice and neat. And then we'll do it on the other two florals, and then we're going to bring some more in. I'm just going to kind of sprinkle them around. So we've got 3 down. I'm going to use a bigger size one and cover up another boo-boo that is on there, and just strategically place it. And I've kind of got a line from the flowers down, and I'm going to follow that line and just put another one underneath the sentiment there, and we've kind of got like a little trail of embellishments. So that will pretty much finish off the card. I think it came together despite all of my issues. So I hope you like it. If you do, consider hitting the like, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.